Record button.
Got it?
You got it? All right, man. Real quick, do you still agree to all the terms and the release of this podcast?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Let's do it. Give me a second here. All right, welcome back, everybody. Today, my guest is Justin. I know him because he was very influential in my jiu-jitsu career. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu under Pedro Sauer. And now he has gone a different route in his life. And we'll talk about that. The things we'll talk about today are jiu-jitsu, many different aspects about it, everything about it, basically, not just the art form, but beyond that. He's now in school studying theology, I believe. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
And just anything general in life. Justin, can you quickly introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, my name is Justin Angelos. I've been friends with Rich for, 10 years at least?
Way more. Yeah, more than that.
yeah, I'm going to say at least 10 years. My memory's not what it used to be.
Yeah, probably about 15.
Yeah, that sounds more like 15. And I was Rich's jiu-jitsu instructor for 3-4 years?
Yep.
Something like that, 3-4 years. And you moved to California, and I moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, of all places. And I've ended up back in Seattle. And my life took a completely different turn. Not that moving to Utah had anything to do with it, but that's where it seemed to have taken.
Yeah, I mean, so because we said one of the topics would be life, so that's an interesting way to to kind of turn into that, which is, you don't know where you're gonna go in life, man. You could make a plan, and they say if you make a plan, God laughs. I believe that, man.
Yeah, it's I've heard that one too. When I went to Salt Lake City, it was in 2013. I had just got through my divorce, and I hit a dark place, and it forced me to actually move. So I left. I went to Salt Lake City for almost 8 years.
Wow.
And that's I didn't plan on being out there that long, and I had just barely moved back to Seattle just this last January.
Okay, can you talk about that? Like, what made you move out there to Salt Lake City, and then what made you move back?
Well, like I said, I went through the tail end of my divorce. I hit a really dark, low point in my life, and it was so low that I had to do something different just to kind of get out of it.
Right.
And so I left. It was a very difficult thing to do. It was definitely was not easy. It was probably one of the hardest things I ever did, because my children had to stay out here.
Oh, wow.
So now, instead of seeing them every day, I'm on an airplane flying out here, every 3-4 months.
Right.
And then they sometimes come out there. And when, the funny thing is when I was out there, I kept doing jiu-jitsu for a little while. And then I kind of started to burn out on jiu-jitsu, like really just burn out on it. And, when I was out there, and let me backtrack. See, so as a kid, I grew up in what you would call more of I don't know what you would call it, a household, but it definitely wasn't a religious household. I'll tell you that. I don't know what name to put on it just yet. I've been thinking about that, and I've been trying to figure that out, and I haven't been able to figure that out. So I had an uncle, an adopted uncle. I think I told you about him, John Miranda, the one that your mom he passed away in 2014.
Oh, sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I'm sorry to hear about your mom. It was I remember I saved some of those pasteles for John, and he came up to Seattle.
Awesome,
man. He said it was like better than Christmas. I remember he said they were some of the best he's ever had. I said, dude, they came from Puerto Rico.
She would love to hear that. She would love to hear that. She's in heaven right now, smiling. Trust me.
Oh yeah. So who knows? Maybe they see each other.
Yeah.
But now I forgot where I was going with this. So John, I had moved from Nashville, Tennessee to Salt Lake City, Utah in 96. I met John probably in 97 or 98. And I had discovered a book. It was some kind of philosophy book like Eastern philosophy. I don't even remember what the book was. And I showed John this book and I said, John, I think I'm going to follow this. I'm going to do this.
Okay.
And he looks at me kind of funny and he goes, have you ever been to church?
Right.
I looked at him and I said, no, I've never stepped foot in a church. He said, would you be willing to go with me? And I said, yeah, of course, because I had so much respect for him. I said, yeah, I'll go. Long story short, I don't want to give the full length version. We'll be here all night.
Right.
So long story short, what was in the message that the pastor was preaching about was something that I'd never heard before, but something that I longed for.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it was. I remember as a kid, my dad talked about the person of Christ, but he talked about him as some kind of sage or just normal human being.
Okay.
But this pastor was talking about him in a divine sense.
Uh-huh.
He was attributing deity. I'd never heard that before.
Right.
And the passage that he cited that actually kind of shattered me in a good way, I'd say, was when he was talking about him in an exclusive sense. That he was the exclusive way to life and everything that we know as far as truth and everything goes. And I thought, wow, if that statement's true, that means everything else is false. Right. I thought to myself, because truth by definition is exclusive.
Right.
Not everything can be true. And so I really resonated with that. That really resonated with me. So long story short, I started going to church and I thought, I'm going to follow this. Now, I was guilty that I didn't know why I believed it. But a lot of people, they don't actually know why they believe something.
Right.
Make a long story short, I meet a Bible believer out here in the city and we'll start talking. I'll ask them, so why do you believe this? Before I even tell them what I believe, I'll ask, so why do you believe this? And they'll start spouting off what it is they believe, confusing it for why they believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Jesus died on the cross. He died for my sins. No, I'm not asking you what you believe. I say, why do you believe it? And then I kind of get this deer in the headlight look. And they're like, huh? So long story short, I had, discovered this atheist. He was out here in Seattle just before I'd left.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of, shattered what I believed because I thought his argument sounded good.
Okay.
As I got to Salt Lake City, like shortly after, I found a church out there, Mountain View Christian Assembly. And I was really starting to doubt if God even existed. And he said, in a couple of months, he says, we're going to have world famous apologist, Ravi Zacharias. Now there's some scandals going on with his name in the media lately. And
okay. I don't know who that is, to be honest with you. I don't know.
Okay, good. Well, in case anybody hears it, here's the name Ravi Zacharias.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Well, even if he's guilty of what they say he is, it doesn't change the fact that what he said was true.
Okay.
Truth is truth, regardless of who says it. Even if they're, a scandalous liar on the, private side. I mean, if they speak truth, it's true. So I go, okay, I got to hear what this guy has to say. And so I went to this conference, this lecture that he had given at one of the universities there. I was blown away. And he was speaking to an audience, mostly atheists.
Uh-huh.
And I'd never heard anybody articulate or defend the Christian worldview with such precision as he did.
Right.
Not only did he deconstruct a lot of the objections thrown at Christianity, the Bible, the person of Christ, but he was able to give reasonable answers that made sense logically to me.
Okay.
This was in late 2013. I thought, wow, this is incredible. I said, I want to know more about this. So I waited after the lecture was over and I got to meet him and I talked to him, and the rest is history. I started studying for it now. Now I'm in grad school, working on a master's of combination of philosophy and a field of theology called Christian apologetics.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm hoping to after this, I've got 18 credits left after the summer is over. I'm hoping to move on to a doctorate after.
Awesome, man. Congratulations.
So, thank you. I appreciate that. It feels like it's been one long road. So I was like, I had the same view, and I don't mean this in a negative way. I had the same view. Well, I'm not a religious person. I didn't understand what I kind of, and I said that because I didn't really understand what religion meant. A lot of people say, well, I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. But I feel that if a person says, I'm just spiritual.
Right.
With no theology behind it, it becomes a catch-all for just whatever it is you want to believe. If it feels good, well, that's a spiritual experience.
Right. I see what you're saying. That's a good point. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It's kind of like if I say, hey, let's say that I'm married. I'm not, let's say that I am. And I say to my wife, hey, I'm going to, I believe in the green cheese goddess. And I'm going, and every time I eat blue cheese, I have all the mystical experiences with the green cheese goddess that I want. And honey, I want you to know I'm going to sell our home and everything we have, and I'm going to open up a cheese shop so we can have all the mystical experiences with the green cheese goddess.
Right.
She's going to think I'm insane.
Right.
So I like the term spiritually right. And when I look at the person of Christ, he cared equally about your spiritual condition and your physical condition, your body and your spirit. Okay. He didn't put priority one over against the other. And so I like the term spiritually right. And, that's kind of, where my thinking has changed from when I was, in 2013 to where I'm at now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I understand what you were saying, which is it's a good point. You started off this talk that we had here, which is, okay, you believe this, why, and people not really knowing why. There's a guy, he's on YouTube. I wish I know his name. He's a famous guy, like he's a lecturer or whatever. And I forgot, he came up with this theory, I forgot what it's called, but basically he would say, like, whenever you're trying to do something in life or whatever, you would have like what it is that you want. Like, I want happiness. I want to lose weight. I want to, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. That would be sort of the first thing to write down on a blackboard, let's say, right? The what. And then the second thing would be, okay, then the how, right? How do I get that thing? And he said, like, for most people, even people in the like academic world, this was sort of a model that they followed. And he said that he, or maybe someone else did, but I heard it from him on one of his lectures. He added a third element, which was the why. And it said that it really churned, like, he said exactly what you said. When people would come to see him, right? Like, he would give his lecture and they would talk to him later and say, well, I want to do this thing, whatever. Maybe I want to get a college degree, or maybe I want to fly to another country and live there. When he started asking that why, like, it was blowing people's minds away, because people really didn't have answers, or they didn't have good answers. Like, when I was in school, I don't know if I told you this back then, because I moved to California, I went to school. There was a lot of people in business and in marketing at the school I was at. And I would just run into them. I just run into people on campus and you talk. And whenever I came up to the why, they would never say this, but I knew what the answer was. I knew what their why was. I want to be rich. Mm-hmm. I want to have money. Well, that's not the reason why you should join there's nothing wrong with wanting to be rich. I want to be rich. I want to have money. Yeah. But that shouldn't be the reason why you go into you shouldn't try to be a doctor because you want to be rich, or try to be a businessman. You should do it, in my opinion, right? People disagree with me or whatever. If you do something, you should do it because it gives you some sort of fulfillment, some sort of joy. Because if you're doing something just for money, it's going to suck the soul out of you, man. It really is.
Absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely will. You reminded me of something one of, I think it was a philosophy professor I had once in one of my old philosophy classes. He was talking about a very successful lawyer in the Los Angeles area. I mean, very, very successful, very, very rich. And he climbed the ladder of success. That was the words he used.
Right.
And he says, I'm telling this story to another colleague of mine. And he said, as he climbed the ladder of success higher and higher and made more and more money, he lost everything that was of real value to him. Yeah. His wife, his children, his family.
I see it all the time.
And the only thing the other professor said to him was, as well, he climbed the ladder of success only to realize he had it leaning against the wrong wall.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way of looking at it.
And I went, wow. When he said that, I was like, man, that's, you know, yeah. So I like to ask people that. So why do you believe this to be true? And not just like other Christians, anybody. So how do you, you know, like one of my favorite phrases, you know, I learned this, I didn't coin this, you know, I learned in school, you know, well, why do you believe that to be true? Or how did you come to that conclusion that you believe this to be true? And I just sit back and wait. And a lot of times I don't get much of an answer.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, I hear a cat.
That's my cat.
Oh,
I have a cat.
I was like, maybe I should start the window. It's been distracting over here. You know, so, okay. So, you know, when I started school, I still wasn't really convinced 100% that the Christian worldview was true. Now, I'm sure that there's people that might see this, might laugh as I'm talking and disagree, and that's fine.
Right.
That doesn't bother me. It wasn't until I got to a class that was taught by one of my heroes. He teaches out in a university in Virginia. His name is Dr. Gary Habermas. And he's considered the world's leading authority on the evidence for the resurrection.
Okay.
And he was saying that 90% of scholars, whether they're Christian, atheist, agnostic, agree with 12 historical facts concerning Jesus's life, death, and supposed resurrection from the dead.
This is interesting.
And yeah. And so when I looked at these accepted facts, like the fact that like atheist historian Gerd Ludemann out of Germany said one of the most well-attested facts about ancient history, says it's so well attested that it's an indisputable fact that he was crucified under the hands of Pontius Pilate. And then he places another fact almost equal to it, that Peter and the original 12 had encounters 3 days after his death in which they believed that he physically appeared to them physically.
Okay.
And then you take the empty tomb. And so these 12 facts, they're accepted by 90% of scholars.
Right.
And then you take, you know, the early writings, like there's a passage from 1 Corinthians 15 that Paul includes in his letters that the same scholars, atheists, agnostic, and Christians, date to almost immediately after the crucifixion. And it's an eyewitness report of names of people and places that he appeared to, and names of people that he appeared to physically.
Right.
And so, long story short, after that class, that's when I was convinced that Christianity was true. I went, there's more than enough good reasons to trust that he actually rose from the dead.
Yeah.
Like if you have, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Sorry, go ahead. Finish yours, and then I'll add my point.
Okay. So I'm thinking, okay, if you have atheist historians like Gerd Ludemann and Bart Ehrman saying one of the most indisputable facts about ancient history is that he was crucified, and then you have historians like Gerd Ludemann saying that it's one of the most well-attested facts about ancient history that Peter and the original 12 had encounters with what they believed to be the risen Christ after. And you just go down the list of all the accepted facts and going, the best explanation that explains these facts is that he rose from the dead.
Yeah. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with anyone who wants to be Christian and tell me that, you know, this stuff is true, or that, you know, you believe in something else. I mean, I really don't. I try not to focus on those things. I know they're a part of the person that you're interacting with. So it does mean something. I'm not saying it's not important, but I think to me, the most important thing is whether or not the person is a good person or not. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not caught up in the, you know, it has to be X religion. You know what I mean? I know this is a big world. I've traveled a lot around this world. Not everyone is Christian, and there's many other religions and stuff like that. So I care more about whether the person is good or not. And how, you know, who am I to say the person is wrong. Like, I wasn't there. I don't have the facts. I don't know. I just care more about what kind of person you are. And are you open-minded about stuff?
Yeah.
Like, you could believe what you want. That's fine. But are you willing to listen to what other people say? Like, you don't have to agree, but at least take in the information. I don't like when people are like, well, look, I'm not even going to hear your story about whatever. Look, just listen to it. If you don't agree, you don't agree. But I'll tell you what, man, in most of the times, there's probably something good you can get from listening to that person, whatever it is they have to say.
I agree. I think, being able to, sit down and genuinely listen to what the other person is saying, what's that saying go? It's like, listen to understand, if I'm saying it right. Like, actually listen so you can understand where they're coming from.
Right. Well, most people are waiting to talk. They're not really listening. If you really listen to someone, man, it will change your life. I mean, truly, truly open up and listen to the words. Because it's one thing to go, I see this a lot with parents, because I'm a parent raising kids, where you hear the kids say, no, I don't want to do something. And immediately as a parent, you're like, what? You're telling me no? So you heard what they said. No, I don't want to do, but you didn't, what's behind that? What if the kid is trying to tell you something like, whatever it is you want me to do is actually damaging me. It's hurting me in some sort of like negative way. If you really listen, you're open to those things. I have a friend, look him up on my podcast on YouTube. His name is Professor Jerry. I think I call him a Professor X. He's a professor of psychology, man. Professor of psychology, and he's a believer like you, man. He's always trying to like talk to about Christianity and stuff like that. And I'm open. I listen to it and stuff like that. But he says there's a type of prayer that you have, which is you are talking to God or whoever, right? But the thing is, the way you do it is different than normal prayer. You're actually imagining God sitting there with you. So if you're in the morning having a cup of coffee at your kitchen table, you offer him a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? It's like he's really there. And he said that if you practice this, right, your mind in a way kind of opens up to messages that are coming from the outside, which is they do this experiment. You watch a TV and there's that white noise, like when the TV goes off, that little shh type, type snowy type thing. And people who do this practice could pick up messages that are hidden inside that white noise. But people who don't have a harder time doing it. So in a way, by opening up your mind and having a conversation with someone who's not there, your receptors are open to more possibility. Your mind is literally more open in a way.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. I would say I appeal more to like, okay, do you have any facts? I'm kind of jumping topic, by the way.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it's a very interesting way to approach prayer. I mean, although I do believe in prayer, and I think people, because we're hardwired differently,
right?
You have people that appeal more to the emotional side. You got people that appeal more to the intellectual side. I've always been more appealed to the intellectual side.
Okay,
I may have to try that one day. That recommendation. That's a good one. I never heard it put that way. But that's kind of what drew me to study religion, theology, and all that stuff. Was like, okay, well, all these religions claim to be true. Here's the funny thing. You'll hear in today's day and age that all religions teach the same. That is absolutely false.
Okay.
They all contradict each other. At best, they may be superficially similar.
Okay.
If I run down real quick, Hinduism, 330 million gods and counting. You can actually select the god you want to worship, if it's a male or a female.
Okay.
Buddhism doesn't believe in a creator god.
Right.
Okay. For Muslims, and no offense to any Muslim believers out there, I don't mean this offensively. God is a monadic concept, unipersonal. Okay. For Christians, God is triune, one being who subsists in three persons, and Christ is God incarnate, the divine, unique Son of God, God in human flesh. That's the most important claim for Christians. Now, everything I just stated, those are, fundamental teachings of all those religions. They all contradict one another. Well, is God 330 million?
Right.
Is there no God?
Right. You're saying at the core,
they contradict each other.
Yeah. Right. But I think
so
what people are saying is that no. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. I think the point that other people are trying to say, like to play devil's advocate here, is that most religions, I'm not going to say every religion, are saying like, be kind to your neighbor and stuff like that. Maybe that's what they're talking about.
I will disagree with that one, but I don't want to get into that because that gets into a heavy topic.
Okay.
That's one I like to keep in a perfect, personal, private matter.
Yeah, sure.
Because I do want to be sensitive to anybody watching, but
yeah,
I do disagree with that. So that's what I'm saying. So when I started my studies in this, I go, okay, which religious view or worldview has the best explanation for the way things are in the world?
Uh-huh.
Which worldview has the most accepted facts historically?
Right.
And which one has the best evidence?
Right.
And almost 8.5 years, about 8 years I've been in school studying, I see that the Christian worldview follows that, meets that test. It doesn't contradict its own philosophy. You have earlier manuscripts and more manuscripts for the New Testament than you do any other ancient work. Just to give you an example, Alexander the Great, it was about 450 years before any manuscript was ever written about him. And I think I could be wrong on this number, I think we have about 1,200 manuscripts, but that doesn't trouble any historian at all.
Right.
It's considered reliable. Okay.
It's all they have. So
it's all they have.
Yeah.
Historians are not troubled by it. Okay. Outside sources that corroborate Alexander the Great, I think we have like one or two. Okay. Gautama Buddha, 900 years after his life, and we have 9 manuscripts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The average in ancient history is about 450 to 500 years removed. For the New Testament, we're like 30 to 40 years after the life of Jesus.
Right.
And we don't just have 1,200 manuscripts. We have hundreds of thousands of manuscripts. And according to textual scholar Dan Wallace,
mm-hmm.
we have about 2.6 million Greek New Testament manuscripts.
Mm-hmm.
And the earliest manuscript we have dates to within about 120 AD. Mm-hmm. So so we have more manuscript evidence and earlier manuscript evidence. And not only that, we have millions of quotations that corroborate with what's written in the New Testament outside the Bible in the first century. In fact, if we lost every Bible in the entire world, we could reconstruct the basic facts about Jesus just from non-Christian sources outside the Bible in the first century.
Right.
So that type of documentary support puts the New Testament in a league all on its own. I don't see that with anything else. And then I just, one of my favorite apologists had this test. He said, for a worldview to be considered true, it has to pass 3 tests: logical consistency, empirical adequacy, and experiential relevance. You have logical consistency, experiential relevance, and empirical adequacy and experiential relevance within the Christian worldview. Mm-hmm. One, it doesn't contradict its own philosophy. And you can see that it's logically consistent with reality. I mean, one of the first books that even atheist archaeologists go to when they go do a dig in the Middle East, they go to the Bible to find out where the site is at. And they go there and they excavate and they see, evidence that, oh yeah, the city really existed. There is empirical a measure to verify whether these stories are true or not. And we have plenty of outside sources. In fact, we have 9 sources that corroborate just the 4 Gospels. And that right there is unprecedented, because the average in ancient history is 1 or 2. We have 9 outside sources that confirm the stories within the New Testament. And then you look at, it is personally relevant. You look at, like, I knew a guy that was a drunken alcoholic, and he became a Christian, completely turned his life around. He's been sober almost 20 years. So when I see it meeting this kind of test, and I see other worldviews, no disrespect intended, but when I see this type of worldview passing this type of test, I come to the conclusion that it's evidentially true, and not true just because I grew up this way or I hoped it would serve some need or some purpose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man, it does. And like I said, man, not to make this thing about like whose religion is better than the other one or who one is more right. I I'm into the person, man. I'm not into the religion, the color of their skin, their sexual orientation. I'm not into to any of that, man. You know what I mean? But like I said, I open myself up to God. I talk to God every day. And if anyone wants to ask me about that, I'll share my experience with that. And the only thing that I could say is that I was having such a hard time in life. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Things were going so hard for me. And in a way that I can't explain, like it didn't seem random. Like there had to be other forces at work for this to be happening, you know. And I would talk to my wife, like, why is this happening to me? I don't get to, like, I'm a good guy. I'm not perfect. Everyone who knows me, like, you know, I'm not a perfect guy, but at the core, like, I'm a really decent human being. I believe.
Yeah, I believe you are. I mean, I've known you a long time, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, I have the capability of being an asshole, sure, but usually if you see me being an asshole, there's a reason to it. There's something going on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Oh, and sometimes people like to gloss over that. They just see you being that way and they go, oh, that's who that person is, without getting the facts. Like, oh, why is this person doing that? You know what I mean? Yeah. But for me, in my stories, like, I remember there was a night, you know, I went to bed and I was like, what the, like, it was just so bad that I said, all right, look, I gotta talk to someone. I need help because I this is not working for me. You know what I mean? And I started talking to God. I didn't put a name on God. I just said, that thing that's out there that might be listening to me right now, this is what's going on in my life. Please help me, blah, blah, blah. And listen, the next morning, things started changing. That's how crazy it is, dude. I was like, yo, well, if really, I'm gonna keep doing this. And I keep doing it since that day.
I think that's fantastic. You know, I think that you reminded me of a passage where the Apostle Paul goes to Greece. You know, half my family's from Greece, and on the altars of the Greek buildings, it says, "To an unknown God." And Paul goes to them and says, "Let me tell you who this unknown God is." I really enjoyed that story. I enjoyed hearing you tell me that because it made me think of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's switch it up a little bit, but related. So
let's do. Well, real fast, let me just end with this one thing.
Yeah.
This is something I could talk about all day. The one thing that I do value from what I've learned in school is it really has taught me to be able to foster relationships better. It has taught me actually to learn to care about the individual more and better. Just because of the things that studying theology, which basically all it means, it's just a word that means the knowledge of God, means study of God or knowledge of God. But it's taught me to look beyond what the person is saying and see the heart of the person. And so I feel like I've been able to foster relationships better.
That's awesome.
And connect deeper with the individual person. So that's what I'd like to end that with. So
yeah, no. So I have another friend on here. See if you can find him. Christian. Shout out to Christian. He's very spiritual. I don't think he claims any organized religion. He's a shaman, right? Well, I guess you could say that's a religion. I don't know. But we were talking about in our podcast that, you know, we're born into this world not knowing where we come from. We sort of kind of just wake up and we're like, we're here. And then one of these days we're going to die and we're not sure like where we're going to. Like, I'm not talking about people's religions. There's a lot of people who believe other things. I'm just talking about, you don't know these things. You could learn these things and maybe what you learned is true or what you believe is true. I mean, I don't know. But that fact so that causes a lot of chaos in you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is right? What is wrong? And one of the things I like about religion is that it gives people structure, something to hang on to. You know what I mean? And I think that's what people we're kind of lacking in this world today, which is meaning, purpose, helping other people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes this place that we live in is sick. The way society is set up, so many people with mental problems, not because they were born with some sort of like chemical something wrong. I think that it's the world. It's a manifestation
It is.
of the environment that we're living in. I think the environment isn't healthy, and this is why most people aren't
No, it's
healthy.
not healthy.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and the funny thing is no matter what you believe,
Mm-hmm.
everybody has a worldview.
Yeah.
Everybody has beliefs on where we came from, what gives life meaning, how do we find purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and what happens to a person when he or she dies.
Yeah.
So, and I think everybody's just trying to figure that out. I do believe, you know, there's a branch of philosophy that deals with knowledge, that you can discover what is true
Yeah.
about religious views. You know, someone said, well, you know, we can never know what is true or false. Well, I think that's a false statement, because if we can't know the truth about religion or God, then we can't know the truth about anything. If we can learn basic truths about other things in life, then we can learn the truth about religious topics or about who God is.
Okay.
And that branch of philosophy is called epistemology, how we know something is true.
Right.
So, you know, that's just, you know, life, like you said, is a funny thing, man. You never know where it's going to take you.
Yeah. No, man. If I go back to like when I was like my son's age, you know, like 10 years old, and I, you know, would say like, this is where you're gonna end up. He'd be like, what are you talking about? It's crazy, man. Yeah, man.
I can relate, man. I thought when I was 19 years old, I was the biggest idiot. If anybody told me.
But you don't know that when you're 19, though. You think you know everything.
No. You know, it's funny. I was talking to my uncle. He's a musician. He's a musician. He's also he's a sound engineer for Metallica.
Okay.
And he lives in Nashville, Tennessee. He's worked for Metallica for probably, I want to say, 15 years. And I was talking to him on the phone the other day, and he said, when you were 19, bro, he said, you were the biggest idiot. He said, I thought at best, I was laughing the whole time he was telling me this. He said, I thought at best, he said, you might make shift manager at McDonald's.
Got him. That's crazy, man.
You are like applying to for the PhD program at your school next year.
Right.
And he goes, I still can't believe it.
Yeah.
I said, you never know where life's going to take you.
No, you don't.
Yeah. So it's, you never know, man. I mean,
well, that's the worst thing about being young, man, is that you just don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a biological thing in our brains. I think there's some evidence to that, or just that you haven't had enough experience in life. It's probably a combination of both things, man. But
you know, here's the thing, that this last year, talking about life, kind of shifting away from philosophy and theology and religion. I remember when the pandemic started.
Right.
I was in some of the toughest classes I've ever encountered. It's now I'm going back to religion again. The Bible was written in 3 languages: Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek.
Okay.
And the reason Greek is because it was a common language back then because of Alexander the Great. That's why the New Testament was written in Greek. I was in the final semester of New Testament Greek, which was really difficult. You know, you're learning grammar, syntax, and a discipline where you're learning to translate. It was really difficult. I noticed that I was starting to feel sick all the time. And I was like, man, you know, it's probably just the stress of the pandemic. And probably the stress of this. I started thinking, right? You know, I was about 165 pounds. And one day I was just out of sheer boredom. So I remember I stopped working at March 15th. I'd say by about the end of April, out of sheer boredom, and I was just bored to death. I was in my closet and I saw a suit that I hadn't worn in years because I was too fat for it. I couldn't fit into it.
Right.
I said, you know what? I'm gonna see if I can fit my fat self into this.
Right.
Just for fun.
Right.
I buttoned it up real easy, no problem.
Okay.
And it didn't dawn on me till I walked into the bathroom and looked into the mirror. And all of a sudden I panicked.
Okay.
I ran back in my bedroom. I took that suit off as fast as I could. I threw on some sweatpants and a t-shirt. I jumped up on the scale. The scale said 155 pounds.
Okay.
I thought, Oh my, first thing I thought, cancer. That's the first thing I thought.
Oh, geez.
Then I started thinking, well, you know what? I started thinking, no, it's not that. Because I have changed my diet a little bit. I'm not eating Starbucks gravy-soaked sausage and bacon biscuits every morning now.
Okay.
So I thought that, right? Well, I kept losing weight, but I started getting a lot of pain in my upper stomach. By about May, by the middle of May, I end up in the emergency room in excruciating pain. And the first thing they thought was my heart. And then the doctor goes, I want to give you a CT scan. I want to make sure you don't have tumors in your stomach. Uh-huh. Everything came back great. He said, well, your liver enzymes have raised. And I was in so much pain, I didn't care. I just didn't even hear him. He goes, I want to send you to a gastroenterologist, GI doctor, get you checked out. So I was kind of scared. I didn't want to go do it. I put it off for about 2 weeks. So finally I went. It was on my birthday, by the way, last year. I go in there and she's looking at it and I go, yeah, I heard I have some gallstones. Or no, not gallstones. Sorry. She goes, I said, I hear I have a gastritis. She says, I don't care about that. And I looked at her and she says, I care more about your liver. I said, why? She says, well, you have a liver disease.
Oh, wow.
I looked at her and I said, how do you know I have liver disease? She said, I'm looking at your chart, your blood work. And I froze. I didn't know what to think. I was just like panicked. I was like, I'm too young for this. I thought to myself, I said, I don't live a lifestyle that would warrant this. I thought to myself. She says, I want to biopsy your liver. She says, but first I want to send you down to this other hospital down the way. And I'm going to take I need to get 7 vials of blood because I need to do about 17 blood tests on you.
Wow.
When I tell you she tested me for everything under the sun, she didn't leave anything out.
Right.
I said, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to let you stick a needle in my liver until those tests come back.
Yeah.
She says, okay, fair enough. So I had to wait the agonizing 2 weeks for everything to come back. Mm-hmm. So for 2 weeks, I had a high anxiety. I was going to acupuncture. She told me the funny thing is, she says, for your liver, she says, I want you to drink 3 cups of black coffee a day.
Wow. I never heard that. Okay.
Yeah. She says it's actually really good for the liver.
Okay. I'm drinking black coffee right now.
Hey, I did too about an hour ago. I like black coffee. As a result of that, I ended up liking black coffee. Before that, I was cream and 3 raw sugar or sometimes vanilla syrup. So anyway, they come back and she says, well, I don't understand. She says, all your tests came back normal. I mean, she tested me for autoimmune diseases. She tested me for everything back, right? She tested me for hepatitis, all that stuff. And she says, I don't know what to tell you. So I went and got a second opinion.
It's a good idea.
Good idea. Yeah. So long story short, I needed to get away. So I drove up to Seattle to see my kids on Father's Day. So I spent a whole week with them. Wonderful. It was a wonderful week.
Awesome.
So I went back. That's when I got the second opinion. And I went in there. There's a guy, he's a great doctor. And he looks at everything. And I could tell that he was disagreeing with something by the look on his face.
Right.
Because I'm really paying attention to him. He goes, I swear to you, his exact words were, who in the hell told you you have liver disease?
Uh-huh.
And I said, this doctor down here at this place. I could tell he wanted to say something more, but he didn't.
Right.
He goes, bro, you don't have liver disease. I can't tell you what a relief that was. I go, then what the hell's wrong with me? Gastritis? Yeah. He goes, well, I don't know. I haven't seen inside your stomach. He says, you have gallstones.
Okay.
Now, at this point, I was 145 pounds.
Okay. So you keep it to losing weight. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm at the weight I am right now. And I weigh 145 right now.
Okay.
So this is like July. I kept ending up in the emergency room. And by August, I started to go back to work, beginning of August. Man, I literally walked like a 90-year-old man. I had no energy. I couldn't eat. I could only eat like 1 time a day. And it was like a small little tiny, whatever it was I'd eat. And then after that, it felt like I had a rock sitting in my stomach for the entire day. So I'd eat breakfast and I wouldn't eat all the way until the next morning. So August 19th, I went into the emergency room and I knew something bad was wrong. It just wasn't. And so they did this, an ultrasound. And they said I had gallstones that big.
Okay.
About the size of a golf ball. And the emergency room, the surgeon that was on call came in and he says, dude, he says, it's infected. He says, you've got pancreatitis as a result of it. He says, I need to get you admitted right. Immediately. And I need to take this out. He said, I need to get you on some antibiotics. So they pumped me full of antibiotics. Right. They put me on something called Dilaudid. I've never in my life had an opioid or narcotic in my entire life at this point.
Uh-huh.
I became chatty Cathy. I called everybody in my phone list. I called my boss. I called my boss at like 1 o'clock in the morning, just talking 90 miles an hour. And I called, I said, hey, I got to go. Let me call you tomorrow. Let you know how I'm doing. I called her back 2 minutes later.
Jeez.
And forgot that I had called her.
Jeez.
It was quite embarrassing. So he calls me. So the surgeon comes in and he goes, I said, man, I got this bad acid reflux. I'm on omeprazole. I'm on this. He says, when I take your gallbladder out, you won't need that no more. So he took it out, took out my gallbladder, took out a lymph node that was next to it. You know, they sent it to the lab or whatever. And, you know, everything was cool. No cancer, nothing like that, but it was infected. I got down to 132 pounds.
Wow.
Like I looked like a skeleton. My face was so sunk in.
Mm-hmm.
I looked horrible. I was afraid. I didn't even like to walk past a mirror.
Did the surgery work? Did you feel better after the surgery, or?
Oh man, I'm telling you, when I woke up, you want to hear something funny though?
Yeah.
When I woke up out of that anesthesia, the first thing I asked the nurse is if she knew Christ.
Okay.
That's the first thing I asked her. We started talking. And the next thing I know, I wake up again and I'm in my room.
Wow.
And you know, it's funny. But after I came to, after about, 20, 30 minutes, I noticed a huge difference. I noticed that something was different.
Uh-huh.
In a good way.
Okay.
I was like, whoa. And then oh God, I mean, the pain after was horrible, but it was nothing compared to the pain that my gallbladder was causing me.
Yeah.
So they do that, so I didn't eat for 3 days. Wow. So on the morning of the, I think it was the fourth, the morning of what would have been the fourth day, I finally ate, and it felt great.
Mm.
And then it's taken me 8 months to go from 132 to 145.
Okay.
So
wow. I'm glad that worked out for you, man. Yeah.
Thanks, man. The reason I told that story is this, man. You can think that, and I was planning to move to California.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember you saying something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because my school is in California, and I'm doing their hybrid program, right? Or I was doing their hybrid program at the time. And I thought, okay, I'm going to move to California. Instead, I end up with gallbladder disease and get my gallbladder out, and I look like, I'm dying of some disease, and you'll go down to 132 pounds. I'll tell you what, man, that made me look at things a lot differently.
Yeah.
Definitely. It made me realize it was a wake up call as to what's really important.
Uh-huh.
Because when I look back on it though, here's the funny thing about life, and I hope I'm not talking too much. The funny thing is when I was going through it, it was a horrible traumatic experience.
Mm-hmm.
I look back on it a year later and I go, that was actually a good experience.
Yeah.
That was actually a good memory.
It doesn't feel good while you're going through it. Yeah. I know
but when I look back on it, but when I look back on it,
yeah,
it was, I thought, actually it was a good experience. Yeah. I'd walk through the parks and, anyways, so I don't need
I have a theory. I think the reason why is that you learn something from it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not the same person after that experience.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's sometimes we have to, like I said, I just had this lot of bad luck, man. I don't know what it is. Just bad things going on. And I kind of feel like something out there was kind of like talking to me like, hey, hardhead guy, like listen to what's going on, man. You know what I mean? Like you just like I was just I had my fingers in my ears and I was going la 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 la, not paying attention. And I think that life or the world or whatever was like shaking me, like, hey, dude, wake up, man. All right, man. Let's switch it up a little bit, man, because we've been talking. I feel like
do it.
heavy the whole time.
Heavy topic.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is it comes out. This is what my life consists of. So it just,
right.
I think it's, it comes out of me more easily because that's all that's on my mind, because that's all I'm engulfed in.
Right.
So sometimes it takes someone to force me out of it. Hey, let's talk about something different.
Yeah. Well, let's go into jiu-jitsu, man. And like you mentioned burnout. And I definitely understand what that is. But I feel that when, if you're a person on the outside, or even if you're involved, like you're training, let's say at least 3 times a week, pretty consistently for a few years, it happens to everybody. But I don't hear too many people talk about it. I've met a lot of people who started and stopped. They don't do it anymore. But in general, you just don't hear about this. You got any theories why you don't hear about this?
I don't. I never really thought about that. I've always been willing to talk about my burnout to anyone that would listen.
Right.
But as you could probably tell, I like talking.
Yeah. But why do you think it happens?
For me,
why do people get burnt out?
And I could be 100% wrong.
Right.
But here's where I think people get burned out. And I think this is one of those things where I believe that it, it's probably subjective, but I think people either it's okay to go from white to black belt. That's a long time.
Oh yeah.
I think people might get discouraged because of the time it takes, the investment, maybe injury. People get injured.
Right. Exactly.
For me, it wasn't any of those, because I'd received, sustained quite a few injuries. Even a divorce didn't make me quit.
Right.
It wasn't that. It was, and I want to be very careful how I word what I say, because I don't want it to be misinterpreted.
Right.
But I was trying to make a living off of jiu-jitsu and teach. And when things started to go south, the stress of trying to just keep a school open.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And not feeling like you were, or at least I didn't feel like I was receiving like much. I don't mean financial support.
I think what you're saying is it became a job instead of just like something you do for fun. Am I right or wrong? Or
it became a job. No. You hit the nail on the head. It was right. And, when I would reach out to certain peers or leaders within the, association I was in, and I wasn't, and, I was looking for more for like just guidance, like, hey, how do I navigate through this? And
right.
How can I stay afloat? And I wasn't receiving that. And then, I'm thinking, wow, jiu-jitsu did play a small part in, kind of damaging my marriage. I don't know if I should have said that, but
right. Because you put a lot of you made it like a big commitment to jiu-jitsu, and it kind of took away from your family time a little bit.
Yeah, and even also from a financial perspective, it did.
Right.
And then so now here I am in 2000, late 2013. I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm far away from my kids. I've lost my marriage. I've lost my school. Was jiu-jitsu really worth all of that?
Right.
And I said, not only that, I have damaged joints that will never be the same.
Right.
Was it really worth all of it? And my feeling on that was no, it actually wasn't worth all of that.
Right.
Now, I will say this, I wouldn't trade. I mean,
the experience, you wouldn't trade the experience.
Man, if I hadn't been for jiu-jitsu, Rich, I'd never met you.
Right.
So, I wouldn't trade the experience that I had, and the people that I've met and some of the things that I got to do, I think that was, I almost want to say priceless,
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't have, taken it as serious as I did, I guess. I don't know.
It's hard to look back and know,
that it is hard to look back, but that's why I burned out on it.
Right.
I've heard other people burning out on it just because of from what I've heard from a lot of other people, it was just, well, man, I've been this blue belt for so long. And
yeah, that's part of it too.
Like I'm going to progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the big one.
So my theory is, I mean, everything that you're saying is right. There's no like one answer. What I'm noticing is that, it's so I think jiu-jitsu has changed a lot from like the first time we saw like the UFC and Hoist Gracie and all that stuff like that, and how schools were back then. I don't think it's the same jiu-jitsu, for one thing. I think that
probably
so when I first learned about jiu-jitsu, it was introduced to me as I guess the Japanese translation is the gentle art. And I feel like there's nothing gentle about jiu-jitsu anymore. It was a time where this was a thing that guys got together, guys who weren't very athletic, very strong. They really didn't spend any time in the gym outside of really doing jiu-jitsu. Now, when you go to a gym, everyone is lifting weights. Everyone is like running. It's not gentle anymore. It used to be where guys would work a very slow game. You would watch two guys row, and it would be very, very slow. You know what I mean? Now it's almost like wrestling, where guys are going after each other real hard. It's moving around. It's almost like two cats rolling around. It's not the same thing. And I understand. I'm not complaining about it. Like, listen, the evolution of it is the evolution of it. I'm not talking about that. But because of that, I think that it takes a certain type of person, more physical, more commitment. And I think a lot of people don't have that. Like, I know I don't. Look, my family comes first, my job, things that I'm into, this podcast, writing, reading. And then somewhere like 4th, 5th, 6th, to me is jiu-jitsu. And when you go to a gym with a lot of guys that jiu-jitsu might be their like priority, 1 or 2, there's sort of a conflict there too, because you guys are in different headspaces. You guys are viewing this stuff completely differently. And I think that leads to a lot of burnout. The physical demand, physically, it drains you. You get a lot of injuries. Like you said, you're going to have joint problems probably for the rest of your life, which people aren't talking about. And to cope with that, a lot of people are taking stuff. I've met people with the stuff they're taking, man. I'm like, that has an effect on you. You just can't take ibuprofen every day for the rest of your life, dude. Like, that's not, you can't do that. But it's just ibuprofen. You take it over the counter. It's nothing. Yeah, but you're not supposed to take that every day, man.
That's bad on your kidneys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like this stomach medicine I was on, omeprazole or Prilosec, right? I was on that for like 5.5 years. And when I told my doctor that, he looked at me, he said, "You're not supposed to be on it that long."
Yeah. Jesus.
Yes. Yeah. Some things you're not supposed to be on that long, man. I'm off of it now, but you can't take ibuprofen every day like that.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. It's, I look back, sometimes it was funny, when I drove over to a former student's school, Bothell, it was cool. It brought back some good memories. I remember when I taught seminars out of his school, and, I look back and I have some great memories with jiu-jitsu. I really do. It was, especially when I first started, that was back in 2001. And that was when Pedro Sauer was living in Salt Lake City.
Right. I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
And man, it was, I don't know what it was. It was, there was something that was so cool about the vibe in that school. It was almost like you stepped foot in Brazil.
Wow.
It was just so cool, man. And it's like everybody had a white gi on that said Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Pedro Sauer team. And he was there every day teaching class. He's there every day teaching class. And I stayed in that school as many days a week as I possibly could.
Right.
And, the building that he used to teach is still there. The funny thing is it turned, after he went to Virginia, it turned into an aquarium. Now it's some sort of shipping and receiving office. I drove by there just before I moved back and took a look at it. The parking lot still looks the same. And I was like, God, I seen Helson Gracie in that school. Hoist Gracie was in that school. One of Bruce Lee's students, Dan Inosanto, was in that school.
Right.
And I was like, so I have some really good memories in jiu-jitsu that I think about every once in a while. And it was a lot of fun. I just don't know if I would ever go back to training.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm trying to get back in right now, man, but it's hard. Like it's just damaging on my body. I'm like, Jesus, man, I don't want to walk around with these pains and stuff. You know what I mean?
Dude, sometimes I feel like I'm going to throw my back out when I stand up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, part of it is that we're getting older too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're not 21 anymore, Rich.
Yeah. All right, bro. Let's end it there, man. We'll do this again sometime.
Okay.
Man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
Justin.
let's do, man.